I just don't know why he wouldn't. He just wouldn't stop. And I don't think he ever will. And the people that would read that website are the sick people. They're the people that aren't right.
Yeah.
Right? And those would be the people that would try to find it. For the first time ever in the course of my life, I actually had to come to terms with the fact that at the end of this, I might be dead. There is no question in my mind that he would have been here with the gun. And nobody would have known. If he had made it past Washington, nobody would have known.
Yeah.
Nobody would have known to check on him. Nobody would have known until it was too late. I'd never been more scared. I was actually at work when I got the call that his apartment was empty and the guns were missing. And I actually had to walk behind a wall, and I fell down and just started hyperventilating. I abandoned him, and that the reason he was premature is because I punched myself in the stomach. And so Gabriel grew up believing that I tried to abort him, and when it didn't work, that I abandoned him. So yeah, pretty sure he's not going to call me.
Yeah.
Right?
That's terrible.
It was really bad.
That's okay.
So I called the FBI agent that I had been working with, and I left a message for him. And next thing I know, he's arrested again. From the courthouse.
So this is in March? Okay.
So if you can picture it, there's Richard at the courthouse arguing with them, demanding that this hearing is supposed to happen, and then the FBI walk in and arrest him. Well, we're up to date, right?
Yeah, we're up. Good afternoon. It's Corporal Brett Wilcott with the Burnaby RCMP. It's Wednesday, July 13th, 2016 at 13:23 hours. With Desiree. Sorry, Desiree, can you help me pronounce the last name too?
Capuano.
Capuano. Thank you very much, Desiree. So like we said, we're going to take a statement of you regarding Mr. Reese, Mr. Fox, kind of whatever we want to call him. I know you know him as Mr. Reese.
Yes.
He has changed his name, obviously, and you're aware of it, to
Yes.
Patrick Fox.
Yes.
But I'm hoping to get kind of a full history lesson. When you guys met, let's start from there, and then let's go through kind of all the crap that you've been going through, I guess.
All right. December of 1999, broke up with an ex-boyfriend in Florida and moved out to Arizona. January of 2000, I met Richard Reese at a bar in Phoenix. We started dating. It was a very fast-moving relationship. After the first month and a half or so, we moved to Los Angeles and lived there for about another month and a half. I became pregnant in March of 2000. In April of 2000, May timeframe, somewhere around there, I was in a very bad car accident. I was about 3 months pregnant, and I started hemorrhaging. We decided to move back to Phoenix, because my mother lived there. So in August, we drove from Los Angeles to Phoenix with a stopover in Las Vegas, where we signed a marriage license at the drive-through wedding chapel. In Phoenix, I continued to hemorrhage off and on.
Sorry, let's just go back to that.
Sure.
Catch up here. So you got married in Las Vegas?
Yes.
In what month, sorry?
August of 2000. We signed a marriage license, but he was already married to Kimberly Ann Shires, and he still is. And so I was his second marriage, so it was never legitimate.
Okay. Sorry. Keep on
Oh, no, it's
there.
okay. We really only got married for the insurance.
Because of the medical?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So in Phoenix, hemorrhaged a couple times. I was bay flighted to the hospital at one point, and September 27th, gave birth to our son. It was an emergency C-section. I was severely early. I was a week into the 6th month. So our son was born at 2 pounds, 3 ounces. Was in an incubator for 6 weeks. During that time, Richard told me he didn't want really anything to do with me or the child. And he didn't go to see the child in the hospital. Told me it would probably be better if we gave him up for adoption. Of course, I didn't. He came home from the hospital after about 6 weeks. We had him in Phoenix. And then we moved back to LA, which is where Richard wanted to be.
Sorry, when was that around?
Late 2000. I don't remember exactly when it is. It was late 2000 or early 2001.
And where did you guys move to?
Los Angeles. Torrance. We lived there in an apartment. I'm sorry, off track. When we were together in Arizona, he actually would take jobs with companies, get the relocation money, stay with the company for a couple weeks, and then quit, keeping the relocation money. So he did that to 4 different companies while we were in Arizona, each time using a fake Social Security number to gain employment.
And sorry, when was this from?
This was in 2000.
You think about 3 to 4? Or?
Yeah. Every company that he worked with, he actually used made up Social Security number.
Where did he get that?
He would just make it up. The social.
Came up with a number?
Yeah. He'd figured out like the first 3 numbers indicated what state it was from, and so he would choose the state that he'd want the social to come from, and then he would use the other numbers. Figured out the method there.
Did he talk to you about that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He would rent cars, providing fake identity, things like that. So.
He was living in the States at this time, right?
Yes.
Under?
Richard Reese.
Okay. So it wasn't a fake ID then?
It wasn't a fake identity. It was fake Social Security number.
Okay.
And credit for things like that. While we were together, I actually put together a baby book, and so he introduced me to his dad and his mother, and at one point his half-brother came down and stayed with us while we were in Los Angeles, and I got his grandparents' names, great-grandparents' names, all of his half-brothers and sisters, the elementary school, middle school, high school, the college he went to. I have it all.
Where were his parents from?
His mother lived in Vancouver, and his dad is in Toronto, Ontario. He went to Sprott-Shaw College.
And that's.
He didn't graduate.
Do you know which place he went to school at?
Ontario.
In Ontario?
Yeah, he was born in Sudbury.
Okay.
So, and I think the name of his school was some number. It was like, number 54. Elementary school or middle school or something like that.
So he wasn't lying to you about his identity then?
No.
It was just everyone else kind of?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and he would give him his real date of birth and his real name. Whenever anybody needed a credit issue, he would just make up a social for that. And so...
So you guys moved out to LA then?
Yeah, it was 2001. The relationship was very bad. It's just, he put me down a lot. A lot. Never had anything to do with the child. Wouldn't even look at our son. Wouldn't pick him up, hold him, talk to him, ask about him. He didn't really want anything to do with him. He blamed me for putting him in a position where he had to be a dad. He didn't like that. So towards the end of 2001, I decided that I didn't want to be in the relationship anymore. Told him. It was very amicable. We agreed to separate. We went through all of the belongings, split them all up evenly. There's never any question about, the child. And in October of 2001, I moved to Phoenix with our son and moved in with my mom. At this time, the ex-boyfriend from Florida and I began talking, and he knew that I had a child, but we decided to see if we could give it another shot. And so in December, I went to Florida on a very short trip. It was supposed to be a week. We had plane tickets bought to come back and get my son. My mom told me to leave my child with her, that it would be fine. She would take care of him and go figure it out, and then I could always come back and get him and bring him to Florida. Richard found out, and while I was traveling to Florida, he drove from Los Angeles to Phoenix. He took our son from my mom, brought him back to California, filed for custody, and said I abandoned him. The money that I had for the plane tickets then had to go towards lawyer fees. And in February of 2002...
Sorry, let's go back here.
Yeah.
So you took Gabriel from your mom?
Yeah.
Do we know how that went?
Basically, he showed up and said, I want my son. And she said, I have no legal right to keep him from you.
Just like that?
Yeah.
So there was no fight or anything?
Not that I know.
Do you talk to your mom anymore?
Yeah, my mom and I are very close.
Okay.
She feels bad about it, but there wasn't much she could do. He was the father.
Okay.
So
So he just took it really...
Yeah.
Didn't make note of that.
Yeah. I don't believe there was a fight.
And how old was Gabriel at this?
He was a year old.
Okay, and what happened after that?
We fought for custody. Me from Florida.
While you were in Florida? Okay.
Mm-hmm. Him in California. He had a very good job. He's always been a C++ software developer, and so he's always
What does that mean? Sorry, I've seen that.
He writes code.
Okay.
He writes code. He's a programmer.
Like binary and...
Yeah, but
Okay.
C++ is the language.
Okay.
That's the language that he writes code in. And he always has. I mean, that's just what he does. And so, both here and in Canada and anywhere in the world, programmers make a lot of money. So he was making $75,000 a year. So he had lots of money. Good lawyer. He had the kid.
So how much legal turmoil are we talking about here in the end of 2001? What
Lots.
happened?
Lots. I couldn't afford a very good attorney, and I had to get an attorney in California.
Mm-hmm.
And so from Florida, we were just trying to go back and forth. She really didn't do a whole lot, and I didn't have any money. And so she was a very inexpensive attorney, and I was borrowing money to pay her. And, her position was that I did not abandon my son in any way, shape, or form. That Richard would call all the time in the middle of the night, and he would tell me he couldn't handle the kid. He couldn't handle our son. That he was going to give him back every other night. And by morning he would change his mind. And emails back and forth. That, he's only doing this to hurt me. He only took the kid because he thought I would go after child support. None of it had to do with his love for the child. It was really all just a way to get back at me. And so we submitted those to the judge as evidence that none of this was about his love of his son and wanting to be a dad. It was about hurting me. In February of 2002, we went to court in California, and the judge said that based off of the email conversations back and forth, it appeared that nobody had the child's best interest in mind, so she was going to discount all of those conversations. She determined that we should have joint custody of the child, who, again, was about 1.5 years old at this point. No child support would be determined, and that the terms of the joint custody were that we were supposed to fly the child back and forth between California and Florida every 2 weeks.
A little unreasonable, don't you?
Yep. And my attorney, said, she lives in Florida. This is going to be unreasonable. And the judge said, I don't really care. Then she needs to figure it out.
Okay.
So.
Sorry, I'm just going to quickly go back. We're going to.
And I have that documented. I mean, I have the original.
Okay, the court order?
Yeah.
Perfect.
So if you need to see the 2 weeks with each parent.
So, just one thing, I just had a quick question.
Yeah.
So, you were flying out to, did you fly to Florida the first time? You drove? Mm-hmm. That's why it took a little bit then?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. It took me 3 days.
How did Richard find out?
I told him.
Okay.
I honestly didn't think I had anything to worry about. He had never showed any interest in the kid.
Did you tell him you were going?
Yeah.
For what reason?
I told him that an ex and I. He knew of the ex.
Do you think that had a cause?
Probably.
Like a jealous?
Yep. But it just didn't occur to me.
Okay.
We had been apart for 6 weeks, 2 months, and at no point did he ask about our son. He came out to see me, but didn't want to spend any time with our son. It just was never a consideration in my head.
Yeah.
He told me later that he had already contacted the attorney, and the attorney told him to act that way. And so he had already been planning it.
Oh.
I didn't know.
When did you find that out? Was that after, like, around the trial time?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go back forward, and then we'll go after. Sorry, what was the date of that? Was it February 2002? Okay.
Yeah. So I got the first 2-week visit because at that point I hadn't seen my son in over 2 months, and he was 1 year old.
And you were now living in
Florida.
You were staying there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So we were allowed to have the first 2-week visit. We drove him back to Florida with us. I had him for, the duration of the visit. The handoff was supposed to happen in the airport, and so the day of, I was supposed to bring him to the airport, meet up with Richard, and transfer him into his custody, and he would take him. The night before, Richard actually appeared at my house, and we caught him messing with the engine of the vehicle. When we turned on the lights and ran out, he got in a cab and drove away. So I couldn't actually prove any of it, but the battery was unplugged and some other things were messed with in the car.
Did you call the police about that?
No. We had nothing to show.
Did you see the hood up?
Yeah. We saw him with the hood up and in front of it, but he closed the hood and took off.
And what was happening? What did you guys notice?
Well, the dog started barking.
Okay.
At the front, and so we went out and we saw somebody in front of the car, and so we turned on the lights and we ran out and he was gone.
And what was wrong with the car?
The battery was disconnected. I think something else was done on it, but I don't remember.
That was 14 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay. So the next day you're supposed to go meet him at the airport.
Yeah. So I did. I gave him my son, and.
Did you confront him on what happened?
Yeah, he said he knew nothing about it.
Okay.
He took our son back to California, and the next 2 weeks I just didn't have the money. He would continuously call, threaten my then boyfriend. His name is Michael. He's my youngest son's father, Sage.
Mm-hmm.
So he would threaten Michael's daughter, Michael's ex-wife, talk trash about them, say really lewd and awful things, sexual in nature about them, just constant. And it got really hard to deal with. And I honestly thought that if I was like, you know what, you can just take the kid. Fine. That's what you want. You want our son, take our son. That he would freak out. But, and I guess he did, but he never gave me our son back. I kept trying to raise the money to fly our son out. But by the time I had the money, Richard was gone.
Do you know when that was?
It was later on in 2002. So
this is a couple cycles of those 2-week cycles where you were supposed to have seen.
Yeah, and I just couldn't afford it. I had no job. I had no money.
Yeah.
We just didn't have anything.
And so did you try to just call him and you couldn't find him?
I called him. The phone number didn't work. I emailed him. He didn't respond. I had no other way to get a hold of him.
Okay, so what happened then?
I got a job. At that point, I didn't know where he was. I didn't know how to get a hold of him or how to find him or what to do. So I would call Child Protective Services in Los Angeles every 6 months and give them my information. And then in 2005, I got a call from my mom that said Richard and my son were in Phoenix. My mom and Richard agreed to have Gabriel, have our son there with her, spend some time with her. He actually, he needed to travel to Los Angeles for something, so he asked my mom if she would watch our son. She agreed. So he spent some time with her there. One of those visits in 2005, she actually called me and put me on the phone with our son. And I guess it really confused Gabriel, who was 5 years old at the time. And Richard found out that she had called me, and he got very mad and refused to let her see Gabriel anymore. I guess it would have been around September of 2005 because they had arrangements for her to spend Gabriel's birthday with him. And so she showed up at his apartment with all of the birthday presents, and it was empty.
So did they have like an agreement? They weren't going to talk to you?
No. It was never determined or set ahead of time. I guess he just assumed that she wouldn't call me.
Yeah.
And she didn't.
But if it took a couple times for your mom to call you,
yeah.
Like if
I think
I'm a father
was,
and
yeah.
my mother, if my children were away from me and my mom had access to them, my mom would call me immediately.
Yeah.
I have your child.
Yeah.
And tell me.
Yeah. Well, she told me that, Richard was in town. She told me that they were making arrangements, to spend time together.
Yeah.
But it was, she didn't call me to talk to Gabriel until a couple times.
Okay.
There were many years that my mom and I had issues.
Yeah, there's something there, and
Yeah.
you know what?
We've worked past it.
Okay, good.
We've worked past it.
We don't need.
She's
to,
my best friend.
Okay. We don't need to go into that.
No, that's okay.
I wanted to cover that off because
she blames herself for a lot of what happened.
Yeah.
She does. So September, October of 2005, he's gone. Apartment's empty. Phone number doesn't work.
This is the Phoenix apartment?
And we're back to not knowing where he is. In 2005, I enrolled in college and started working and getting a degree. My whole thought process was, I never gave up on the fact that I was going to find my son, that I was going to have him. But I wanted to be in a position where once I had him, I would be able to provide for him. And so, since I didn't know where he was, and I couldn't go after him, I thought that the best thing that I could do would be to improve myself and my situation, so that when I did find him, that I would be okay.
And you had, at this time, you already have your other child,
yeah,
too?
my younger. Yeah, he was born in 2003.
Okay.
Michael and I got married in 2002. So yeah, we were married and raising the younger child too.
Sorry, I'm just going to go. So you got remarried in 2002?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. Capuano, same last name as me. I kept his last name because it sounded better with my first name.
Okay.
And we are actually really good friends.
Okay. And so you had a child?
Yeah.
Sorry, what was the child's name?
Sage.
Sage. And when was Sage born? Does Richard know this? Like,
Yeah.
Date of birth and everything? Sage
Yeah.
Sage
Yeah.
boy?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sage
just
is
making
boy.
sure.
Sage is all over that website.
Okay.
Yeah. Pictures of Sage.
Yeah.
Video of him. Pictures of him in his underwear. Map of the house. If any pedophile wanted to find my underage child, he could just go right to the house.
Yeah.
Super. Yeah. No, Richard hates Sage.
Okay. So how long were you and Michael together then?
Until 2000, we separated in 2009.
Okay.
So, yeah, we're not even there yet. Okay, so 2005, he shows up, has a couple meetings with my mom, and then disappears again because he doesn't like what she did. Then I get a call it was November or December of 2007, and Richard again shows up in Phoenix. The bar that we originally met at is a local neighborhood bar. My mom worked there back when I was 15 years old, and it was just kind of a hangout spot. So Richard knew that he could get a hold of my mom through the bar.
Okay.
Which is how he kept finding her. So he would show up at the Marcel's, let them know that he was looking for Teresa, and they would get a hold of Mom. And this time, the message that he gave to my mom to give to me was that Gabriel wanted to speak with me. At this point, I was graduating in 2007, December of 2007, and Michael and I had already decided to move to Phoenix, back to Phoenix. So I had a phone number that had a Phoenix area code already assigned to it. It was actually a fluke, but and so I told him absolutely, give him my phone number. Of course, I'll talk to my son. So he called one night.
He's 7 now, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's 7 years old. And I spent about an hour on the phone with him. And I asked him every single question I could think of. What's your favorite color? Do you read yet? What's your favorite, book? What's your favorite movie? What do you like doing? Where do you like to eat? And what do you, do you have friends? Everything. At one point I ran out of questions and he said, Mom, ask me more. So we get to a point in the conversation where he says, Mom, I'd really like for you to meet me at a park tonight. And I'm sorry. I always miss things. During the 2005 visit, Richard had a gun.
That's with Mom?
Yeah.
Okay.
Richard actually had a firearm. And one night at the Marcel's bar, Gabriel was actually in the car watching a movie on like a little portable player, and Richard was at the bar lining up bullets. So I knew that he had a firearm, and he was not looking so hot, according to my mother.
So the meeting took place in the...
No, just
The bar.
my mom happened to go to the bar one night, and he was there. And they were at a separate table. My mom was at a separate table with her husband, and they looked over and saw him at a booth lining up bullets.
So you saw the gun or the bullets?
The bullets.
No.
Well, and the gun on his holster. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you had an open carry?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Well, not a license, but this
Yeah.
state doesn't have one. So, but it was not registered. And so when, a couple of years later, when Gabriel tells me that he wants me to meet him in the middle of the night at a park, one, I was in Florida, and two, I probably wouldn't have gone. Just because that's a very sketchy situation. I told Gabriel that I couldn't meet him that night, but I asked him, is everything okay? Is everything, anything wrong? And no, nothing's wrong. I just really want you to meet me at this park. And I said, well, and I can't, but, Grandma's there. She's right there. So if anything's wrong, Grandma can get you, and then I can be there tomorrow. I'd figure out a way. And he said, nope, everything's fine. Everything's fine. I just wanted to see you. Okay. And that was it. That was the phone call. 2 days later, I tried to call again, and the number was disconnected. And at that point, he was gone again.
You think he moved out of Phoenix?
I didn't know.
Okay.
I didn't know at the time. I had no idea what was going on.
Sorry, when was this around? This is
December of 2007.
Okay. Okay, what happened next?
February of 2008, Michael and I and Sage moved to Arizona. We moved to Phoenix. I got a job with Apollo because I graduated, and so the degree got me a job. And we basically just kind of lived here. I always kind of knew in the back of my head that if I moved back to Arizona, I'd be able to find him. At least it would be easier. At least I'd be there. So when he popped up again, I'd, be there. In 2009, I don't remember when. I think it was early in the year, in springtime. My mom's husband came home one day and he said, I swear I saw Richard and Gabriel at a gas station here in Phoenix. I swear that I saw them. And so Michael and I decided to do a Google search for Richard. And see, just on the off chance what happened. And we found out that in 2007, he was actually arrested by the Phoenix police. And then we read the story about how he had lied to the federal judge and was awaiting terms on perjury. And this was in 2009 that we found it, so it had just happened. And knowing that he was in Arizona, and I was in Arizona, I actually went down to the federal detention facility and saw him. And I demanded to know where Gabriel was. And he refused to tell me. All he would tell me is that Gabriel was in good hands. And I said, if he's not with you and he's not with me, then how can he be in good hands? And he said, well, you're not much of a parent. And the person that he's with is more of a parent than you are. So he's in better hands than he would be if he were with you. And I tried to get help, knowing that I'm sure if Gabriel had gone to see him in jail, they would have a record of the guardian that was with him, and from there I might be able to find out where my son was. And I contacted the federal people, and I contacted the state people, but nobody would work with me because they told me that the issues with my son were state-related, and then he was in jail for federal issues, and the feds wouldn't talk to the state, and the state wouldn't talk to the feds, and so neither one of them would do anything. Neither one had jurisdiction to do anything. And everybody just told me to get a lawyer. And so I called a dozen different lawyers, and I made too much money to get free help, but I didn't make enough money to pay for the lawyers that would help. They wanted like $4,000 as a retainer, and I just didn't have it. And so I knew that Richard was in jail and that my son was alive somewhere, but I didn't know where. And I couldn't get anybody to help me. And so 2009, end of 2009, Michael and I separated. It was my decision. And it had nothing to do really with him. It had more to do with the fact that I'd never lived on my own and had my own place and made my own decisions and followed my own rules. And I really felt like I needed that, to find myself and be independent and be my own person. And he respected that. And so we separated, but we never saw the inside of a courtroom during the divorce. We agreed on everything. And we're still very close to this day. Very, very good friends. 2010, I met Christopher.
Sorry, at this point, does Michael stay here?
Yeah, he was still in Arizona.
Okay, and Sage
Yeah.
was with?
Well, we shared.
Okay.
I had him primarily.
Right.
I got primary physical custody, but we had joint legal. Meaning that I just had him at my residence most of the time. But Michael had a say in everything that happened.
Okay.
And I never went after child support or anything like that. I knew that he would help wherever he could. So, 2010, Christopher Lochner.
Sorry, Christopher who?
Lochner. It's with a K. That was a guy I met and started dating. Christopher Lochner had a very, very sordid past, legal-wise. Been in jail for a long time, many, many years. But he was really trying to walk the right path. He was a good person, just messed up. He was very close with his family and had a lot of support from his family. First year we dated was great. It was really great. 2011, February 2011, I got a letter from Richard from jail. And the letter basically said, do you want to know where your son is?
Is there more to it, or?
Yeah, it was, my time in jail maybe gave me some perspective. I realized that you should probably be in contact with your son, as long as that's what you want and that's what he wants, and I can't make any decisions for him, but if you want to know where he is, then I'll reach out to him and see if he wants to have communication with you,
Opening up the channels almost.
Yeah.
Okay.
Richard is very long-winded. I don't know if you could tell or not, but nothing he writes is ever short. So yes, it was a long letter, but essentially that's what it is. So I wrote him back and said, absolutely, I want to know where he is. And I told him that I would totally respect, everything that they want to do, move slow, make sure that he's comfortable. So Richard and I started correspondence back and forth. I sent him about 5 letters total. He kept getting moved between Eloy and Florence, which are 2 different detention facilities here in Arizona. So sometimes the letters didn't get to him until later, whatever. But we sent pictures back and forth so that Gabriel could see pictures of me, and then I could see pictures of him. And the first phone call, I believe, was in March or April of 2011. And I spoke with Gabriel on the phone, and it was, it was kind of uncomfortable. It was awkward.
He's now 11.
Yeah, well, 10. Yeah.
10. Yeah.
Don't really know each other very well. But we're kind of starting to work through it. A couple phone calls. Talked a lot about video games. It seemed to be this focus of his entire world was video games.
Where was he at this point?
At that point, I still didn't know.
Okay.
Richard wouldn't tell me who he was with or where he was.
And you didn't ask Gabriel?
I didn't ask. Finally, apparently, Richard asked if it was okay to provide her information to me, and she agreed. And so I was told that he was with Liz in Carson, California. One of the agreements between Richard and I was that Richard would let Gabriel move at his own pace, and he would not interfere in the relationship between Gabriel and I, building a relationship between the two of us.
Okay.
So, and in return, I would respect, Gabriel's feelings and wishes, and also Liz, and make sure I didn't move too fast. In June of 2011, I drove to California, and I saw Gabriel for the first time in 9 years. We sat and talked for a long time. We hugged a lot. I got there on a Friday night. We met at a Denny's. Had something to drink. It was just an introductory meeting. The next day, Gabriel spent the whole day with me at the hotel. We went swimming at the hotel pool, and I realized that he didn't know how to swim. And so we kind of worked on it a little bit, Then I asked him if he wanted to spend the night with us at the hotel, and he was absolutely adamant about it. He definitely wanted to stay. But Liz came, and she said that they already had plans to go to the movie, and that if Gabriel bowed out of it, that he would be insulting her and her family and lying to her, and that they'd already had the conversation, and Richard said that he was not allowed to stay the night with me in the hotel room. And so Gabriel, crying, left her.
Sorry, you said us.
Oh, sorry, I was with Christopher.
You, Christopher?
And Sage, actually.
Okay.
It was all three of them. Yeah, it was Christopher, Sage, and I. And the boys were jumping on the beds back and forth and having fun. Sage always knew that he had a brother, but Gabe didn't. So, we decided to actually, since she couldn't stop us, we went to the movie theater where they were watching the movie. And Gabe actually chose to sit next to me, and we held hands that entire movie.
What'd you see?
I don't even remember.
Oh.
I don't even remember. I was staring at him the whole time. I don't even know what movie it was. But he got me this little thing from one of the restaurants that they went to. I still have it. He actually, pipe cleaners?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so he made me two little figures, one blue, one green. They're still on the dashboard of my car.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so. Then Sunday we met up again, and we left. We drove back to Phoenix. Went out again for a second trip in June. This time we left Sage with my mom, and Christopher and I went out. And it was really fun. I mean, we had a great time. He was allowed to stay at the hotel with me that night, and he and I had a really long conversation. And I told him that with his dad being in jail and facing deportation, that I'm trying to figure out legally what the best thing to do is. Because the court order is joint custody between him and I, but it's based out of California. And his dad being in Arizona and me being in Arizona, we have to move the case, right? But if his dad is deported, then he can't have that joint legal custody in the United States. And so I was, talking to Gabe about, what we're doing and my plans and everything. And I also told him that we were going to San Diego on a family vacation in July, and I asked him if he wanted to come. And yes, absolutely, he wanted to go with us. And so we started planning out how we were going to go get him for this trip to San Diego. So all through July, we're making the arrangements, and the plan was that we were going to drive out to California, Los Angeles, pick him up from Liz's house, and then drive down to San Diego. The week of the trip, Liz called me. She asked me if he needed to bring up pillow, blankets, what he needed to bring, just to make sure. She's like, he's super excited. This is really great. Everything's wonderful. We were supposed to leave Friday night. that Thursday, Gabe called me, and he said, I've changed my mind. And I think a week is too long to be with you. You're still a stranger to me, and I don't know you. And I don't think it's appropriate. And I was like, well, I'm willing to bet you talked to your dad. And he said, yep. I got off the phone with my dad, and my dad said that he could not approve of this trip. And so I'm not allowed to go. And I said, well, that's not really your dad's decision. It's your decision about what you want to do. And I told him I didn't believe that this was his decision. I don't believe that that was what he really wanted. That I think that he really wanted to go, but he felt like he couldn't. And he started crying. And at that point, Liz got on the phone with me, and she said that she didn't approve of the way that I was speaking to Gabriel, and that she would be forbidding any additional phone calls. And since the trip was right around the corner, she was going to be taking Gabriel to an undisclosed location so that I wouldn't be able to pick him up. So we went on the trip without him. But on the way back, I contacted my attorneys in Phoenix, and I asked them what to do. And they said, well, take a copy of the court order, go to California and get your son. You're the one that has the legal right to have him. And I couldn't abide by anybody telling me that I couldn't have my son again. I've been trying really hard to make sure everybody was happy, and at every turn, I just kept getting denied. So, Christopher and I drove out and called the police.
When was this, sorry?
This was August of 2011. Richard kept saying that he was going to be released from custody and that he was going to be allowed to live in the United States again. And so it was just a short time until he was going to be in California with Gabriel. I didn't know how he planned on making that work, but I don't know the law, so whatever. So August, it's like the first week of August, drove out. Him and Liz were not at her house, so called the police, and I told them that I was there to pick up my son. She called, the police officers came, two police officers, a lady and a gentleman, and the lady called Liz and said that she needed to show up with Gabriel. And so Liz showed up with Gabriel and her sister and her brother-in-law and her cousins and a whole host of people that were all part of Liz's family. And Liz and the lady officer talked for about a half an hour. And when they were done, the lady officer came to me and she said, I think you're a total piece of shit. Verbatim. Swore at me, ridiculed me, called me names, told me I had no right to be there, and that the best course of action for me would just be to return to Phoenix and start giving Liz money to raise Gabriel. Then she said that because Richard had taken Gabriel out of the state of California, she had to allow Gabriel to go with me. But I was not allowed to take him until she returned, and then she left. And so I sat at Liz's house for 3 or 4 hours, and she never came back. And so I called the police department again, and I was so mad. I told him if they didn't fix it, I would get her badge number. And he said it was completely inappropriate. And so they had another police officer show up. He looked at the documentation. When he showed up, she ran right over to him to try to talk to him, and he didn't talk to her. And he looked at the documentation, and then he took Gabriel aside. And he said that Gabriel had to go with me, but that he shouldn't be scared. There's no reason to be scared. you know, to look at it like an adventure, you know, maybe it could be fun. And at that point, Gabriel stopped crying. And while we were getting his things, Liz and her family were saying very mean things to me the entire time. Until we got in the car and we drove away. Gabriel started school right away. Him and his brother shared a room.
In Phoenix?
Yep. Started acclimating. An aspect of this story, and the reason I bring up the ex-boyfriend, Chris, is because during all of this, Chris started to return to previous behaviors. And so he was off doing things that were not good.
Like crime?
Yeah, and drugs. I was very...
Did you guys live together at that
Yeah.
time? Okay.
Yeah, and he would just be gone for hours and hours or days, just gone. And I probably should have just broken up with him at that point. I know that. But
I'd say it's 2020.
Yeah, it is. And having to deal with Richard and just finding Gabe and working full time, raising kids, you know, it's a little occupied.
Mm-hmm.
So, Richard got out in September or end of August, beginning of September of 2011. He was deported, taken to the border. He crossed over into Vancouver and was there for a total of 3 days. At which point he turned around, entered the country again, and moved in with Liz.
How do you do that?
How? I don't know how.
Think you did it legally?
No. No, I'm pretty sure it wasn't legally. He was officially deported. He was removed.
Okay.
He filed a document with the court in Compton called a UCCJEA. I was in the process of having the court case moved over from California to Arizona, the custody case.
Mm-hmm.
But he filed this UCCJEA, and it basically said that the home state of the child was California. And the judge in California and the judge in Arizona talked, and between the two of them, agreed. And the judge made me return Gabriel to him.
Even though you were born, the child was born in Arizona.
Correct. Yep. And then he was in California with somebody that was not supposed to have him. She was not a guardian. He never even signed over guardianship to her. But they confirmed the UCCJEA, and I was required to return Gabriel to him.
And when was that?
That was November of 2011.
That was when you had to bring him back?
Yeah.
Okay.
I actually had family that had never met Gabriel coming for Thanksgiving. And I had to give him back a week before. So, like my grandparents, you know. And that's really when Richard started the campaign of what I would consider harassment.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not legally, but to me, that's when it started. That's when he started monitoring all of my public records, when he started obtaining copies of depositions. He started investigating Christopher. He filed a motion with the court to have all custody removed because of Christopher's criminal record, past criminal record, monitoring all police reports, and emailing me constantly. I had an attorney at the time handling the case, and he would call and talk to the attorney so often that I ended up having like a $10,000 bill because of his communication with my attorney. And all of it was geared toward, I'm ignorant, I'm stupid, I don't know the law, and he's going to do everything. He's just going to, handle it all. It took me back to court many times to change custody, go after child support. And it was all in Compton, so I would have to drive out for every court hearing. I talked to Gabriel, and Gabriel said that he wanted to live with his dad, but he wanted to be with me for visits. And so the first hearing that we went to court, we both agreed that Richard would have primary physical custody, we would have joint legal custody, and I would have visitation. And I knew that Richard didn't have a job, and I knew that Liz, didn't have a lot of money. So I paid for school supplies, I paid for school clothes, I paid for all the visitation, I had the medical insurance, it took Gabriel to get the glasses, I handled all of that. But Richard would send me emails and tell me that I should probably just start giving him $700 a month. Otherwise the court would be very mad at me if I didn't, and would demand money. Every visitation, he would mess with it. He would change plane ticket flights, change his mind at the last minute. I would have to drive overnight to go get Gabriel if I wanted to have him at all. One time he sent him, literally with the clothes that he was wearing, a video game controller and a box of Jewish crackers. That was it for an entire week. And that's what he sent him with. He also apparently became Jewish at some point. And so
Richard became Jewish?
Yeah. And so in September of 2011, apparently Gabriel became Jewish also, because you can just do that. Judaism's like that. You can just be like, hey,
welcome to
the club, okay. Right? And so Gabriel would come to me and he'd be like, I can't eat that food. I can't do those things, very adamant about the fact that he's Jewish, even though bacon is his favorite thing in the whole world. Anyway. So 2012 was basically that. It was Christopher getting into trouble, me having to appear in court in Compton because Richard filed yet another motion and dealing with the emails. There were times where, court would have proceedings, there would be legal proceedings, and I wouldn't even know about them until Richard would tell me about them. He would know about them before I would. And they were mine, so... at that point, I was just like, I'll just wait for him to tell me when things happen, because I'll know for, that was basically my life.
And he had to give you some notice before the hearing.
Yeah, not even. No, this was criminal matters that didn't even involve him.
Oh, okay.
But he was monitoring things so closely that as soon as they happened, he knew, and then he would tell me about them.
Oh, sorry, what was happening?
Yeah, with Christopher.
Okay.
Or I was arrested in September of 2011, and so he was monitoring the progress of that. He got I was, yeah. The charges were dropped, but he got the recording with the police. He got the police report. Got copies of all of that because. And then, of course, that was all submitted to the judge as a reason why all visitation and custody should be removed. And every single time we went to court, I just asked for things to remain the same. That's all I ever asked for. He can have primary physical, we'll have legal, I have visitation. That's it. Just don't change it. And in that essence, I won. I was able to defend myself in each of these court proceedings. And the judge, Commissioner Lowry, kept postponing the child support hearing. We're just not going to do that one yet. And so that was just never determined.
That was Richard asking for the $700.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, Richard asking for child support.
Okay.
Yeah, constantly, the whole time. So, October 2012, Christopher got arrested. Big bad charges. Police came to my house. They raided it, turned the whole house upside down, found all kinds of stuff that he had stashed in the house, and he went away. Richard filed all of this with the judge. He called CPS on me. CPS came out, checked out the house.
CPS, the Child Protection Services?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
No. And he filed all of this with the judge in California and said, take everything away from her. Monitor visits only, if she has to have visits. That hearing, the judge actually denied his motion, but only because Richard didn't submit it correctly. And instead set up for another hearing, an actual hearing. And in the second hearing, Richard asked that the court assess child support immediately because he needed to move to Vancouver. And he wanted to take Gabriel with him because he couldn't get a job in the United States. At one point in 2012, he was going by the name Morgan Roth. So, and I believe that he even got employment in the United States in 2012 as a contract, but it didn't last long. And I had about had it. And so I called a tip line, FBI tip line. And I said, there is an illegal person living in California trying to take my child. And you guys messed up before because when you arrested him, you didn't know that he had a child. And so the child went unaccounted for the first time you had him in custody. And you need to do something about it. And so they did their investigation. I gave him his alien identification number, and I called them to let them know that Gabriel would be with me over winter break. And January of 2013, January 5th, Richard was arrested.
So I just question about this.
Yeah.
Sorry, January 2013.
13. Yeah.
Let me finish writing this. So he's going to court in Compton for 2 years while being in the United States illegally, representing himself, and they don't do anything?
No, it's a family judge. He didn't care. I brought it up so many times. At one point in 2012, Richard said that his name was Patrick Fox, and I made a point to the judge that this is bullshit. And so the judge said, I need to see a birth certificate. And then we went around and around where Richard said, well, I can't get a birth certificate because I don't have any ID. I can't get ID because I don't have the birth certificate.
And this is still all in
Compton.
In court?
Yeah, all of this is in court.
So he's lying in court, basically, about his identity.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. And I tried, but the judge didn't care.
Okay. Wow.
Yep.
Okay, so January...
Oh, believe me. Yeah. It's the scars that I have are not, like, things have happened.
Yeah, it's almost like a movie, almost humorous.
It is.
Somebody's like, now we can laugh at it.
Right. I know. Like, seriously? I mean, the way that Gabriel ended up with Liz, when Richard was arrested in 2007, they had already worked out a plan where Gabriel would go to the neighbor's house and call Liz. And that's what happened. Richard was arrested, and my 7-year-old went to a neighbor's house on his own and called Liz. And she drove from LA to Arizona, picked him up, and drove him back to LA. Even though my phone number and my mom's number sit in that phone.
Yeah.
But that was what they had arranged.
And that's all Gabriel knew.
That's all he knew.
Okay.
And then, of course, I got that thrown back at me from Richard. And he said, well, clearly Gabriel loved Liz more than you and trusted her, because if he really wanted to be with you, then he would have called you and not her. Right?
If he doesn't know your name or face. It's kind of hard to say that.
Well, and if apparently Richard has told Gabriel his entire life that I abandoned him, and that the reason he was premature is because I punched myself in the stomach. And so Gabriel grew up believing that I tried to abort him, and when it didn't work, that I abandoned him. So yeah, pretty sure he's not going to call me.
Yeah.
Right?
That's terrible.
It was really bad. Sorry. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We're in January 2013.
2013.
He gets arrested.
Yeah, he gets arrested.
This is kind of really the start of everything now.
Yeah. Well, and even not, it was really 2014. So 2013 was a really quiet year. And I suppose it's because Richard didn't really have any money, and he was trying to establish himself up in Canada. He actually entered again in March of 2013. He thought that there was a court hearing on record, and he appeared in court in Compton for that hearing in March of 2013. He didn't know that that hearing had been pulled off calendar, that it was no longer going to happen. And I called the FBI agent that morning. It was a great... I wish I was a fly on the wall. I had worked all night long, and I get a call from the court, the mediator, and she said, "You're supposed to be here in court for mediation." I said, "No, that's off calendar." And she said, "Well, I'm not showing that." I said, "You need to call the judge, and work that out, because that's no longer a hearing that we're having." I said, "It doesn't matter anyway. The father's been deported to Canada." And she said, "Well, he's sitting right here looking at me." Oh, okay.
So you're in Arizona hearing that he's now back in the country?
Yep. So I called the FBI agent that I had been working with, and I left a message for him. 2 hours later, he calls me, and he's like, "So what's going on?" And I tell him the situation, and he's like, "Well, he's probably not still there, but I'll head down there. It's been a couple hours. I'm sure he's, gone." And next thing I know, he's arrested again. From the courthouse.
So this is in March? Okay.
So if you can picture it, there's Richard at the courthouse arguing with them, demanding that this hearing is supposed to happen, and trying to figure out why it's not scheduled, knowing that he's here illegally, and then the FBI walk in and arrest him.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
So at that point, after that, he stopped trying to come back, and it was actually really quiet. I had Gabriel. I had requested sole custody at that point since Richard was out of the country, and it got approved. So I had custody of Gabriel.
In Arizona or in?
Well, it was in Compton. I went out to Compton to request it. And it was actually very quiet. The ruling was that I would have custody of Gabriel, but when Richard got on his feet, he could petition the court to have that changed. It seemed, honestly, throughout the entire thing, that the judge was really supportive of Richard. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know why. I really didn't. But that's what I faced, And so he filed a request and asked for it to be changed. It was not, but visitation was then established. And so starting in December of 2013, Gabriel started spending every school break with his dad.
Sorry, when is it?
December of 2013. So he spent winter break up with his father in Canada. So it was, the 2 weeks over December and January of 2013. 2013 to 2014.
In Vancouver then?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. He spent spring break there. He spent the entire summer there. He spent fall break of 2014. He spent winter break of 2014. He spent, literally every visitation. Gabriel was with his dad up in Vancouver. But March of 2014 is when everything really started. And the emails always happened.
Yeah.
I mean, hundreds.
I think you've sent me a ton of emails.
Yeah.
And
that's a fraction.
Yeah, and it's obviously we can just quickly go over it. It's generally him arranging visitation, but being a dick.
Yes.
I'm trying to think of a way, like...
No, it is.
Because what you're showing me is he's going all about this.
Yeah.
You guys are going at it each other.
Well...
Because I'm only seeing one side, but it looks bad for him.
Well, the majority of the emails I don't respond to.
Yeah.
If I respond to him, I'll respond to a single email, but then he follows it up with 4 more.
Yeah.
Right? And at some point, I have to stand up for myself. At some point, I can't just keep getting beaten down by this. So there are responses to some of the emails, but the volume of emails that he sent, what I responded to, and what I tried to respond with was minimal, right? Unfortunately, not responding to those emails hurt my relationship with Gabriel. And the reason why is because Richard kept telling Gabriel everything and kept including Gabriel in all of the emails. And I would never respond. And so Gabriel was only getting one side of that story, ever. And so he'd never listen to a thing I'd say.
Okay.
And that was part of the reason I started responding to the emails. And at one point, Gabriel was like, I'm really glad that you're standing up for yourself, Mom. I'm glad that you're not just taking it.
He's 14 now?
He's 15 now.
15?
But,
no, at this time.
At that time he's like 13, 14 years old.
Okay. So he's understanding what's going on.
He's starting to, right? And he's like, yeah, I'm really glad to see you're responding to that. You're not just, accepting it. And part of that was to show Gabriel that just because his dad kept saying these things didn't mean that they were true. And so it's not just me being a dick or going back and forth with him and bantering, bickering back and forth. I would have rather not responded to anything ever that man said. There's no point in a conversation with him. But to stand up for myself and to show Gabriel that just because he's saying it doesn't mean it's true.
Okay.
So I did respond to some of them. And then after a while, I just got so tired of it, I just started messing with him. Some of the things I'd respond with, I'd be like, I just don't even care anymore. But it had been years of getting these emails to the point that I actually started responding like that.
So at this point, you don't have the order of protection.
No,
So
this is way before.
Yeah, this is...
we're like March of 2014.
Yeah. You guys are trying to communicate with each other.
Well, Gabriel is going up there for visits.
Yeah. And you're trying to obviously arrange those visits.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm working on those and making sure, and of course, anytime I don't explicitly comply with what he's demanded, he threatens to take me back to court. Constantly trying to keep the upper hand, which is, I'm used to it.
What do you mean by that?
You have to send him to me on these dates, even if it's in the middle of the work week, and I don't give a fuck if it interferes with your job, because the court doesn't care about your job and the court doesn't care about you. So if you don't take time off of work and send him to me on the exact day that I want, then I'm going to take you back to court and I'm going to take away visitation or custody. Constant.
Yeah.
You have to do what I say. That's what I mean by that. It was always, you have to do what I say. Mm-hmm. And honestly, with the way that the court proceedings went, I was scared to not do what he said. I've been over backwards.
Yeah.
Everything. That first winter break in 2013, 2014, I guess Richard spent like $6,000 on Gabriel while he was there. And then when he sent him back, he started sending all kinds of stuff. Satin sheets for Gabriel's bed, feather down comforters, 4 different video game consoles, boxes of candy, credit cards, clothes, like brand name clothes, and he just kept sending this stuff to Gabriel at my house. Meanwhile, my other kid, Sage, we're just don't have all that stuff, right? And I told Richard he had to stop, and that was a World War III. That was, I'm denying my own son because I'm white trash and broke and don't have enough money to take care of my other kid. And so Gabriel has to suffer. But it took me months to tell him to stop because I was scared to tell him to stop. I didn't know if I was allowed to tell him to stop. So March of 2014, I'm at work, and a manager walks up to me, not my manager, a project manager, walks up to me, and she says,
Sorry, where are you working at?
Apollo, still. Same job I got in 2008. Same company.
Okay.
She came up and she said, it's none of my business, and I certainly won't judge. But you might not want to put on your LinkedIn profile that you're a stripper. And I said, I don't know what are you talking about. She said, your LinkedIn profile, it says you're a stripper and you smoke pot. And no. So I went to my LinkedIn profile, and sure enough, there was a secondary profile connected that said I was a stripper, and it listed some stripper club that I worked at, apparently, and said that I smoke pot, and I drink beer, and I watch fighting, and I'm only concerned about myself, and I don't give a shit about my kids.
So this is a second profile it's linked?
Yeah, it's like my main profile is there,
Yeah.
but then there's
the one
like,
you created?
Yeah, and then there's like this linked secondary profile that's like there. It's got my picture, and it's got all of this other information on it. And people that I work with are actually like starting to connect to the secondary profile, because the request went out to everybody, and so they're like, yeah, I'll connect because, you know, I know her, I work with her, and so they're connecting to this LinkedIn profile. And so I contacted LinkedIn, and I told them what the situation was, and they said, well, we can't tell you who created it, but we will take it down. And by the time they took it down, there were like over 60 people that I worked with that were connected to it. And I work in technology. I work in the IT department. So the position that I had, I worked with absolutely every single area within the organization, from executive management all the way down to just your everyday user. And so I had CEOs, I had CFOs connected to it, director level people connected to it.
So what happened? So yes.
Yeah, that are connected to this profile. It says I'm a stripper.
Mm-hmm.
So I got the LinkedIn profile taken down, and I'm like, okay, fine, good, that's taken care of. And I thought at that point that I was done. But a couple weeks later, an email went out to the people that were connected to LinkedIn, the connections that I had. An email went out to them, and the email included sections of emails back and forth between Richard and I. Emails that I had sent to him, sections of them, and my arrest record, other information that they probably just should not have had. I have a legal marijuana card, and so that he sent. And it was all from an email address, Desi Capuano. So it wasn't my actual email address, but it was my name. And a link to the website. And that was how I first found out about the website. And I actually had to walk back into work, knowing that they'd all seen it. A few weeks later, a second email got sent. Apollo owns the University of Phoenix. You know, University of Phoenix Worldwide, like the online college?
Okay, yeah.
Okay. So Apollo owns them. And so I worked in the core IT department that ran the college. So the first email went to Apollo. Oh, hold on. That's James. Oh, okay. So the first email went to just Apollo. The second email that he sent went to all of the Apollo people, and then it went to 600 people that worked for University of Phoenix. And that email included my income and expense declaration, that I had to provide to the court. Emails back and forth, and specifically a single sentence that, taken out of context, makes me look like a racist. Documentation again for the marijuana card, and the website.
Sorry, income records.
Emails.
The marijuana card, and then the link to the website.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I called the police. They filed a report in Phoenix.
When was that?
May of 2014. They had 2 officers come out and talk to me. Again, they filed the report. I guess the one officer called Richard and talked to him about what was going on. And company had to put in a lot of security measures. And of course, I started getting emails from random people that I work with, you know. And Richard knows how to manipulate. He's really good at it. And so he included this entire thing about how Gabriel doesn't love me and doesn't want to be with me, and I keep fighting for him, not caring about how he feels. And so I would get random emails from people that I worked with saying things like, you should just let your son go live with him. You know, you're an awful person. And
People have responded now to what's been coming.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And it was going to personal emails as well as work emails. The personal emails he actually got from LinkedIn when he connected.
Whoever set up the profile. Okay.
Well, yeah, he had created the secondary profile, so he was able to get all of his personal and work email addresses from LinkedIn. And I sent him an email and I told him to stop. I told him that this was harassment, that this is not conducive to us trying to raise Gabriel. This is not helpful. And he needed to stop. And his response was that it wasn't him. But if somebody were doing this to me, it would be totally justified. He sent me an email at one point asking me how it felt knowing that every time I walked down the hallways at work, everybody there had seen me in my underwear because of the pictures that were up on the website. I gotten out of the shower, I had got a bathrobe on, and Gabriel walks into my room and he's giggling, he's laughing, and he says, I want to take a picture of you. And I was like, well, I just got out of the shower. He's like, no, it's perfect, I want to take a picture of you. And he took the picture, and 2 days later it was up on the website. So he was using his son to get a lot of the information. And then he put up the pictures he accessed through Gabriel's Facebook account before I locked it down and banned him. He had these avenues worked out before I ever even considered him. You know. Then he sent the email to the board of directors. That was a fun one.
When was that?
That was right around the same time. It was June, I think, 2014.
To Apollo?
Yeah, the board of directors of Apollo. Anytime you work in a company, there's a convention for how the email addresses are done, whether it's first initial, last name, or first name dot last name, right? And then at whatever the company is.
Yeah.
Okay, so he figured that out. So then he went and he found the board of directors' names.
And names are up there. Pretty easy to figure that out.
Yep. And he already knew the naming convention, so he sent the email to the board of directors. And that one was, I smoke pot and there's not a fucking thing you can do about it. Signed, Desiree Capuano.
From Desiree.com?
Well, from that.
From the DesireeCapuano.com email site?
Yeah. Not my actual email address,
No.
but something that had my name. And then, of course, people I worked with, friends, associates, all different levels, coming to me all the time asking me why I would put up a website like that, why I would have that kind of information out there about myself. And I'd have to tell them, it's not me. That's not me. Apollo actually got their legal department involved, and the legal department of Apollo worked with GoDaddy, which is who it was hosted through originally.
Mm-hmm.
And GoDaddy made him take it down, which is when he started hosting it on his home computer in Burnaby. July of 2014 is when James and I started dating.
Okay.
So he actually worked at Apollo and was aware of the situation. Everybody at Apollo was aware of the situation. But I had worked there for so long and established myself that my reputation was very, very good, and he wasn't able to damage that.
That's good.
Yeah. So I had a lot of support there. It was a lot of emails, a lot of going back and forth, issues with visitation, whatnot. He would send me emails about how many hits the website was getting, the traffic that was going on, plans that he had about, tweaking the website so that it showed more, just all kinds of things, constantly. December of 2014 is when he sent the email saying that while Gabriel was up there, Gabriel asked him if he would ever shoot me. And he told him that, the condition for that is life in prison, and it's not worth it. But if that weren't the case, that yeah, he absolutely would.
So that's the first time
Mm-hmm.
that you guys talked about it. It was based on the email that he sent you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, where he told me that. Before that,
That's an interesting statement to send in an email.
Yeah,
without...
I thought so too. Well, and it was a really long email thread back and forth, and my response to him was basically just, listen, none of this has anything to do with Gabe, and I will always love Gabe no matter what he chooses to do. And he responded with this really long thing, where one of them was, my ultimate goal is to get you to commit suicide. Another part of that same email was, Gabriel and I talked about it, I would shoot you if I could. And then the last paragraph was, I've explained all of this to Gabriel, and he knows that he's a pawn in my plan to destroy your life, and he has no issues with it.
You talked to Gabriel about that?
Yeah. Gabriel knew everything that was going on before I did.
What does Gabriel say?
I would ask him about certain things, like whether or not he wanted to visit with me, whether or not, some of the things that Richard would say were just awful as a parent. Awful. And I would ask Gabriel about those things, and he'd be like, no, that's not true. Okay. But he knew about the website, he knew about the emails, he knew about all of those things before I did. He also, when I found out about the punching myself in the stomach thing, I brought it up to Gabe. He's like, yeah, I know. And I was like, dude, seriously. That is just ridiculous. Now I joke around with him. And so when he does something that's dumb, because kids do, and I'm like, oh man, that was probably because I punched myself in the stomach. And then we laugh.
And he takes it as a joke.
Of course. Yeah, no. I was like, listen, that's not even within the realm of real.
But he believed it for a certain time.
Yeah. Yeah, I did. Yeah, I did.
So
you
covered the emails there about that. There's some other things that happen about potentially the firearms.
Yeah, so he brought that up right away. It was the summer of 2014. It was like July of 2014 when he started using Patrick Fox identity. And literally email from Richard Reese, and then the next day, Patrick Fox email.
What was his email address?
Richard Reese @gmail.com.
And then...
It was Patrick Fox @Solaronics.
Okay.
Literally the next day.
Yeah.
Right? And then 2 days later, I've never been Richard Reese. I was never that person. why do you insist on calling me Richard Reese? I'm Patrick Fox. I've always been Patrick Fox. I think Richard Reese is dead. And I'm like, well, what? What are you talking about? You can't just up and... Nope. Apparently you can, if you're him.
Yeah.
Apparently you can. And one of the first things that he sent me was his gun license. And
So that's how you sent me the scanned copy, right?
Yeah,
So
he sent it to me.
You sent me a PDF
Yep.
document, or a PDF copy of his firearms license.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And he sent it to me. And this all came up because he started using the Patrick Fox identity. However, custody is all under Richard Reese. Which means like the visitation approval is for Richard Reese. Gabriel's birth certificate is listed as the father is Richard Reese.
Mm-hmm.
His passport says that the father is Richard Reese. All of the documentation that ties Gabriel to anything is under the name Richard Reese. And so for him to say that he's Patrick Fox and he has no identity in the name Richard Reese concerned me, sending my son up to Canada.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because if anything were to happen, there's no tie between this kid and Patrick Fox. And so I told him that I wasn't going to send Gabriel to him unless he could provide documentation that he had some identity in the name Richard Reese. Anything. And he asked me if the deportation paperwork would be sufficient. I said, yeah, that's fine. It has your picture, it has your name. That'll work. That's where he sent me the copy of the deportation paperwork. That email was followed up immediately with an email that says the ugly truth and talking about how here's his British Columbia ID, here's a paycheck stub with the name Patrick Fox, here's a birth certificate, says he was born in Florida with the name Patrick Fox, and here's his gun license. Oh, and by the way, he's allowed to own guns and shoot guns, and he does all the time. And they wouldn't do that if he wasn't actually Patrick Fox, because he's got this criminal record under Richard Reese. And so if he just changed his name legally, then his previous criminal record would follow him, and they would never give him a gun license.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So he's always been Patrick Fox. That's basically where that came from.
For a week.
Yeah. No, yeah. For like the last 3 days.
Yeah.
Always. Yeah. And then he tried to tell me that back in 2000, that he made all of that up. And that, you know, he hired actors and staged all of that with his dad and his mom. And the person that came down wasn't actually his half-brother. He paid somebody to... Like, seriously? Really? But he seriously thought that I would buy it. Like, pushed it, which is why I get really bent out of shape with the whole Patrick Fox identity. Like, just literally up one day. And it was like, that's it. That's who you are. I hate that. And it really... I sent Gabriel to him and filled out all of the minor children for the transferring information under the name Richard Reese. And when they asked him who his father was, he said Patrick Fox. And that just made me so mad. It's like you're brainwashing your kid into believing that that's his name. Seriously.
So this is you did send him up this
I did.
again.
Yeah,
And when
I
was
did.
that?
That was December of 2014. And again, it was because I was court ordered to. I was required to provide reasonable visitation and communication between the two of them. That was the court order.
Mm-hmm.
So I did.
Was there any issues on that trip?
No. No, there were a lot of emails about how I was a horrible mother and Gabriel had turned into this awful and lazy person. My response was, Gabriel, stop acting like a teenager. You're freaking your dad out. Right? Because he's 13 years old, 14 years old. Of course he's going to be lazy. He's a teenager, right? That's what they do. Spring break of 2015, I kept Gabriel because I actually took him to go see my dad. His maternal grandfather, who he'd never met before. And on that trip, we went down and he got to meet his great-grandparents also. And as soon as Richard found out, he sent an email bashing my family, calling them white trash and all kinds of things that were not nice. Then summer of 2015, that's when everything really went bad with James. I would not give Richard the address, the physical address, because one, he lived in a different country and wasn't allowed in the United States, and so there was absolutely no reason for him to have it. And two, because all of my personal information was up on the website, and I didn't want this address up on the website.
Just another thing.
Yeah, right. It wasn't even my house. It was James's house, right? And so he said that he wasn't actually going to return Gabriel to me at all. He said he was going to go to the Vancouver courts and have them override the decision in California and make sure that he didn't have to return Gabriel to me, and that the Vancouver court would take over the custody issues and that he would just keep him up there. And I told him that's not how it works. But even the day that Gabriel was supposed to be returning, that day Richard sent me an email and said he was not going to send him back. So I went to the airport not knowing if Gabriel would be on the plane. I had no idea. And of course I had like 3 different things mapped out for what to do in case, one of any situation happened. So I had to make sure that I had everything lined up for any eventual possibility, Gabriel was back not a week, and the address was up on the website. Richard actually had, Gabriel had a cell phone. He had the cell phone that his dad paid for a year and a half. And apparently he had been tracking Gabriel through the phone.
Like a Find My iPhone.
Mm-hmm. Yep, location. Found the address, did the reverse lookup, found out who owned the house.
Put 2 and 2 together.
Yep. And that's how he ended up with the address.
Does he work?
Yeah.
I know we've talked about job, this is time-consuming.
It sounds like it's a full-time job, right?
Yeah.
But again, he's a programmer. That's what he does. He writes code. So he's always on the computer anyway. So that's when we called the RCMP originally, and told him that this was what was going on. He sent me that really nasty email about the rash on Gabriel's neck, and I was so done. I was just so tired. So I called the RCMP. The first constable that I got was not very helpful. And then I called back again, very adamant, because he just kept sending more stuff, and then he was involving other people, and then he started putting James's information up on the website, and so I got really mad. And so I called back up there, and I got a different constable who really seemed to find it offensive. And so I started working with him. In October, I came down here, and I got the... actually, it was July. It was right around the same time that I called the constable, the RCMP. I came down here, and I got the order of protection. He requested a hearing for it. That happened in October of 2015. It got upheld.
Was he here for that?
No, called over the
Okay.
phone. He appeared over the phone.
So Richard requested a
Phone. Yeah.
phone hearing.
Mm-hmm. Yep. To contest it.
And were you there?
Yeah. Yeah. James and I were both there.
And it was upheld?
It was upheld, yeah. It's up on his website.
Mm-hmm.
It's not all of it. He removed a lot of it. Detective Montoya actually appeared. He spoke in our defense. We subpoenaed him. James's mother was there, because Richard has actually gone to her LinkedIn profile and viewed all of her people multiple times. And I, for one, know what he does with LinkedIn, so that's very dangerous.
Mm-hmm. So in July of...
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, July is just when we got the initial.
Okay. So the order of protection, tell me what that is.
Well, it basically says that he can't contact me, he can't come around me, and he cannot harass me.
Pretty vague.
Pretty big. And at that point, we presented the information that we had, but she hadn't heard his side of the story, and so it was more so just he can't come around. He can't, be physically near me or really contact me.
And at this point, he's been 2 years out of the country, almost 3 years out of the country, so there isn't much.
Right, yeah, and at that point, when she says, you can't come around, it's like, well, that's not really going to do me any good. But my thinking and my feeling on that was that an order of protection is what is required to take down the website. Right?
Yep.
I need that in order to have any legal basis to remove any of the things that he's done.
Sure.
And that's what I needed it for. And so while it didn't really help with him coming into contact with me, it did help in other ways. And that's why we went after it.
Okay, so that's an Arizona state order of protection.
Right.
Do you know, is that enforceable in the United States?
Yes.
Wide?
Yes.
So, because that's
nationally.
Is it, what's the court level then? Would be.
Well, so that was a municipal. I got the initial order through the municipal court. In October, it was upheld in the municipal court. So that's just here. But when it was upheld in October, he was also put on the Brady Index, which means he's not allowed to have, possess, own, or obtain firearms or ammunition or weapons of any kind. That's nationwide.
Okay.
In the hearing in October, when the judge was presented with all of the information and she got to hear both sides of the story, she actually made a determination that not only does the order of protection handle him coming into contact with me, but that it does cover the harassment. It covers the website. It covers all of the things that he's been doing as harassment.
Okay.
And that those are considered domestic abuse. And that those are covered.
So that was the updated order.
Yeah, in October.
October order.
Yeah. Yep. Then he contested it again in Superior Court of Arizona.
And that's the highest level, right?
Yeah. Besides Supreme at the national federal level.
Okay.
But I don't think, I don't know. But Superior, it is for Arizona, but every state can see it.
Okay.
So they can all see.
So he contested it again in Superior, and what happened there?
That was the hearing that was on June 7th. He made no plans to appear by phone. He made no arrangements to appear telephonically. But apparently he was already in custody. So he was picked up on the 27th in the United States. So 10 days before that court hearing, he was found in the United States.
Did you go through with the hearing?
The judge said that she had more than enough evidence to make a ruling, and that she was upholding everything, that he was absolutely on the Brady Index. That was not going to change. And that everything is now a felony. It's a felony because it's all aggravated. He's been told to stop the harassment. He's been told that the website is harassment. And that him continuing to keep it up and post on it and update it and use it is aggravated harassment in a superior court.
Okay. So he's been picked up.
Yeah.
Obviously, you've spoke with people since he was picked up.
Yeah.
You spoke with my partner, Constable Cam, who took an audio statement from you, and then my partner, Constable Mackay, over the Skype. We took an audio tape as well.
Yes. Yeah.
How do you feel over knowing what's happened? Like, we see some firearms in Los Angeles, just outside Los Angeles and Carson, right? You know who they were found at, or the house they were found at.
Yep.
We've talked about this. How do you feel about that?
There's a lot of different emotions. There's a lot. Above and beyond anything I am so entirely grateful that the guns were seized and that he's in custody. Above and beyond.
That's the good.
Yeah, that's the good. Like, completely, like, above all, that is. But, confusion, fear.
Fear's a big one, right?
Fear's, for the first time ever in the course of my life, I actually had to come to terms with the fact that at the end of this, I might be dead.
Yeah.
He shipped the firearms to the state next to mine and was on his way 10 days before a court hearing where he knew exactly where I would be and when. And he'd never made arrangements to appear over the phone. For a hearing he requested. I was supposed to make of that.
Yeah.
There's no question in my mind that he would have been here with the gun. And nobody would have known. If he had made it past Washington, nobody would have known.
Yeah.
Nobody would have known to check on him. Nobody would have known until it was too late. I'd never been more scared. I was actually at work when I got the call that his apartment was empty and the guns were missing. And I
phoned you about that, I believe.
Kim, she did.
Oh, she did. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually had to walk behind a wall, and I fell down and just started hyperventilating. That's.
You're scared at this point, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He disappears so easy. He knows exactly how to go missing and how to disappear. He's done it so many times.
You've said now probably 5 times you've seen her?
Easily.
Yeah.
Easily. When he was here in 2005 in Arizona, he left Liz. Liz didn't know where he was. He was living with her. Him and Gabe were living with her in LA in 2003. And he just left with Gabe. She had no idea how to get a hold of him. She had no idea where he was. He did it to her. He knows exactly how to do so. And given the chance, that's what he's going to do.
Mm-hmm.
And what maybe started out as hatred, he's more than welcome to hate me. I don't care. I get it. I'm not particularly fond of him either, right? That's fine, but that has grown into something so much more that he'd take me out if he could, and I know he would.
Do you think he would hurt Gabriel?
No, but I think he would hurt Sage.
Yeah. Out of?
Spite. Yeah.
How about James?
He'd probably leave James alone. Because according to him, James doesn't really have much to do with this. But me and Sage, yeah, he would. And the people that would read that website are the sick people. They're the people that aren't right.
Yeah.
Right? And those would be the people that would try to find it. And 2, because that poor kid should not have to deal with this. You know, he's been dealing with it every day. Basically his entire life. You know, and it's not fair to him.
Okay.
So, sorry.
That's okay. Take your time.
Sorry.
You know, Desiree, I think we have a lot here.
Yeah.
I think we...
Good. Well, we're up to date, right?
Yeah, we're up.
Does it make more sense now?
It does. It makes a lot of sense, and I really appreciate you spending some time talking about this.
It's so back and forth and so many things. Yeah. He's already said he won't ever stop.
Yeah.
And I don't know why. Like I've had more than my fair share of fault in this. I get that. Bad choices, bad decisions, handling things wrong, not making the right choices. And I'm sure I hurt him along the way many times, you know. But I don't, this level, I don't think is normal.
Yeah. There comes a point where you kind of all have to wash away or wash your hands
Right.
and say, we're done.
And I kept telling him, up until now even, if he'd just stop and be like, all right, listen, went too far, whatever, taking the website down, we're cool, right? Everything goes back to normal. I have no resentment. If he'd just stop at any point, Gabriel would be going up there for visitation. I've never gone after him for child support. You do your thing, I'll do my thing. That's the joy of being not together. We don't have to.
Yeah.
We don't have to approve. We don't have to like, right? That's the joy of it. You just handle things the way that you want to up there. I'll handle them down here. We're good. The only thing that we need to deal with is figuring out transportation for Gabriel. That's all. At any point along the way, all he had to do was stop. That's it. Just stop. And I wouldn't have gone after anything. Nothing. I just don't know why he wouldn't. He just wouldn't stop. And I don't think he ever will. So, that's it.
Thank you. It's 15:40 now. We'll just stop the stream and thank you.